Hi, my name is Carmen, and I am an early childhood special education teacher, a life and ADHD coach, and I'm the host of this podcast, Authentically ADHD. I created this podcast to help anyone wondering if they have ADHD, people who have been diagnosed for a while and want some more support and community. I'm here to bring you the latest research on ADHD and neurodiversities while we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of ADHD. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to Authentically ADHD, where we Let's start that again, shall we? Where we dive deep into topics that empower and inspire those living with ADHD. I'm your host, Carmen, and today we're uncovering the secret weapon for motivation that lies within every ADHD brain. Did you know that motivation is not just about willpower? It's actually a really complex dance influenced by our brain chemistry, environment, and how we understand our unique minds. Today, we're going to explore how ADHD impacts motivation, strategies to harness the secret weapon for motivation, and actionable tips that you can start applying today. Now, I was inspired by this topic by a vote on a poll on one of my episodes. I don't know why I haven't mentioned this before, but you can look for those polls on Spotify right at the bottom. If you scroll all the way down, there might be a poll attached to ask you, what do you want to know about? And ADHD and motivation has been voted for quite a bit. I'm actually going through this exact issue with motivation, or I was, with going back to school. We're back now. I mean, it's the week of no kids, but I'll be sharing about my experience through this episode as I explain what motivation is, how it works differently for us ADHDers, how we can harness hyperfocus, and strategies and supports that we can use to help us achieve more self-motivation, in turn helping us, get more done. Are you ready? Let's get started. So, the first thing about ADHD is understanding why we have challenges with motivation. Living with ADHD often means facing daily battles with it. It's not a lack of desire, we are not lazy, but rather our brain doesn't really know how to prioritize and break down tasks. So this can really affect the way we struggle to start a project and maintain focus on long-term goals. Motivation can feel very elusive. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the science behind why our brains do not do the whole motivation thing very easily, besides the fact that we can't prioritize and, unless we learn that skill, things like that. What is going on in the brain? So dopamine, as you know, is one of the biggest things that it affects ADHDers. And, it's a chemical. And it's referred to as the happy, joy chemical. But that makes it confusing because it doesn't actually create joy. It reinforces joy. For example, you eat ice cream and then you get dopamine. The dopamine releases that felt so good, now let's do it again. Now, it also then, dopamine can be released in anticipation of reward. So you can get a little boost of dopamine thinking about the ice cream, and then the dopamine hit still comes afterwards. And it works along with our dopamine reuptake systems. Now here's the thing. Our dopamine doesn't work in that way. That's how a neurotypical's dopamine works. For an ADHDer, after experiencing the reward, it does release the dopamine, but then our dopamine reuptake system, it gobbles up the dopamine so fast that we have a really hard time staying motivated. So if you want to think about it in this way, dopamine is actually the motivation, because it's the anticipation of the reward. What will you get out of this? We like more things like immediate dopamine. things that may be a little less healthy for us. Things like scrolling on the phone, playing video games, TV shows, smoking the thing, eating the things that we know. I'm lactose intolerant, so eating ice cream. Yes, dopamine reinforces that felt so good, let's do it again, but it doesn't last long enough for me to remember the next day and how my stomach hurts and all the rest of it. So sorry if you can hear the people above me walking. I do not live alone, so it is what it is. We're not going to be perfectionist about it. So here's the thing about ADHD and motivation as well. ADHD isn't just about attention deficits. If you've been here for any amount of time, you know that it profoundly impacts every part of our lives, especially staying motivated. Self-motivation is a big thing that we don't have. Symptoms like impulsivity and distractibility can also derail our best intentions. Despite the common misconceptions, ADHD brains are wired differently, often leading to bursts of hyperfocus, which can be a super amazing thing that you can harness if you can harness it correctly, okay? So hyperfocus is a phenomenon that ADHDers experience when doing work for a long period of time with intense focus. Usually these things are under an umbrella of things we enjoy doing, but I find that I can fall into hyperfocus while doing things that I don't necessarily like doing, but because I'm getting a lot of it done, that's the reinforcing dopamine that's keeping me going. Now, the questions you can ask is, how can you take hyperfocus and use it to your advantage? What interests you? What time of day is best for your working brain? What tends to trigger your hyperfocus? How can you adapt tasks with hyperfocus in order to get them done? Now, here's another secret to motivation for the ADHDer, and it's because the heart of motivation really lies in the dopamine in our reward system, in the neurotransmitters of our brain. So for those with ADHD, dopamine levels fluctuate so drastically, affecting our motivation and focus. So understanding how to naturally boost dopamine levels can transform our productivity. One of those big things is making sure that you have strategies that are healthy. The first one being meet your basic needs and treat your ADHD. Others include movement, diet, journaling, self-discovery, taking a shower, changing clothes, changing your sensory experience, changing your environment, taking a break, going out in nature, building routines. You can even build a dopamine menu. I learned this from the How to ADHD podcast, and it's pretty great. I have one. I highly suggest that you make one. It's just a menu of things that can healthily trigger your dopamine so that you have more built-in motivation. This goes along with goal setting and planning. Effective goal setting is crucial for ADHD brains, even though we hate doing it. But when we're clear about our goals and we are very specific about our goals and we know our why, then those goals can be achievable. Paired with the practical planning techniques, you can really turn those aspirations into a reality. Believe me, I didn't think that I was going to be able to get ready for school, plan out episodes for this podcast through September, and then be able to go back into work with a confidence that I really have never felt before. I didn't think that I could do this, but I did, because I set out very clear goals. You have to be kind to yourself, and clear is kind. Unclear is unkind. I heard that somewhere. I don't know where. I have ADHD. I forgot, but it's a great quote. It's a great quote. So break your goals down. Make them very clear. Write down, how do you feel about this goal? Why are you doing the goal? Why do you want to do it? What is driving you? For ADHDers, here's the thing. Intrinsic motivation, the interest in the thing helps us more than extrinsic motivation, which is, if I don't do this, I won't get paid. Sometimes the I won't do this, like if I don't do this, I won't get paid, that can drive us, but intrinsic motivation has been researched as way more effective for the person with ADHD. So we want to be intrinsically motivated, meaning we have interest in the thing, we have reasons to do the thing, we have a passion about the thing. I wouldn't be able to do this podcast if I didn't have a passion for teaching others about ADHD. I would have just gone through the paper piles that I had and then would have ended, at episode maybe like 30 and we'd be done, and we wouldn't be here after over 100 episodes. Like, we wouldn't be here if I didn't have the passion about it. I wouldn't be a teacher if I didn't still have the passion about it. Do you know how hard it is to teach little kids? Do you know what goes on in the teaching profession? I don't talk about it a lot here because there are podcasts to listen to about that and for that. So that's why I don't necessarily talk about that in the sense of, being hard. But if I didn't have the passion, I wouldn't be a podcaster. I wouldn't be a teacher. I don't even know how hard I would try at certain things in my life, okay? So you got to focus on your strengths and interests, because the higher the interest in the thing, the more likely you are to be motivated to get the thing done. So use your strengths and build in those supports for areas where you need it. That is really, really a good, those are keys to setting and achieving your goals. The next thing I want to talk about is embracing your uniqueness. So that's another thing about getting to know yourself. Leverage your strengths to overcome the motivational challenges, okay? You need to have some self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-love to even believe that you have strengths, okay? So foster that sense of purpose for yourself by using those strengths to leverage yourself. Then another tip is creating a motivation-friendly environment. So creating an environment, a work environment, that it's a dedicated space, minimizing distractions, and maintaining kind of an organized workflow. This is essential for sustaining focus. Learning how simple changes in your environment and daily routines can support consistent motivation and productivity. Some things that you may find in a motivation-friendly environment is easily accessible tools. Some type of flexible seating, like my desk can be a seated desk, or I can raise it to be a standing desk. And I have 2 to 3 different chairs I can choose from. The lighting matters. I like it bright. Some people don't. Some people like it a little darker. Some people like the natural light. I don't mind store-bought. Things that are sensory, small, aesthetic things that make the room look nice. So my pens that I got from the Weekly Therapy podcast team, they brighten up my desk along with the crystals that help my energy. It's personalized to me, so personalize it to you. Make sure you have a space for your water and a snack. And if you want some inspiration, put up a poster or put up a background on your computer, or even just a Post-it is something that I have used. So, here are some strategies for harnessing hyperfocus, the ability to become intensely absorbed in a task. It is a strength of an ADHD brain, some of them. Not all of us have hyperfocus. So if this doesn't apply to you, that's totally fine. I do experience hyperfocus, so I explore how to identify triggers, create conducive environments, and channel the state of hyperfocus in order to achieve my goals. So while hyperfocus can be a game changer, mastering it does require skill and time and practice. So you need to discover kind of practical techniques for guiding hyperfocus towards productive outcomes and avoiding the pitfalls like burnout and overwhelm, meaning you need to be very self-aware and make sure that you're not running yourself into the ground, because hyperfocus has a fine line. You can definitely use it to change your life, or it can be used and it can create things like burnout cycles, overwhelm, not meeting your basic needs, and then your work is going to be subpar. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be as good as you can make it. There are some challenges here that we have to overcome, and navigating those distractions and managing your time are common hurdles. So, some strategies for maintaining focus are setting boundaries, planning for transitions between tasks and states of hyperfocus. Use tools, okay? Use tools. At work, have a sign that I'll put on my door, like that has something, I don't know, funny, and I usually forget to put it up, but people know by now that if my door's closed and my blinds are drawn, I'm either having a meeting or I'm in focused work, and please don't interrupt me, because if you do, I'm never going to get all of this done. So things like that. I use timers, I use Sensama, I use reminders, I use all the strategies, okay? So you need to put those in place and know where you need them in order to use them correctly. Because hyperfocus is, the right amount of interest with the right amount of intrinsic motivation can lead to hyperfocus. And then you can harness it to get things done, especially if you have already set up an environment to do so. So here's the thing about hyperfocus. It won't always work, especially if the tasks are mundane, repetitive, boring, and or we just don't like them. We don't get reinforcement of dopamine to anticipate it, so we have to build it in. We have to build in the rewards. So build in those plan Bs, support in your environment, like a launch pad, hooks to hang things on so they're visible, open organization, visual reminders, timers, and setting boundaries internally and with others around you, around your time, around what you can do and don't and can't do, what is within your capacity, okay? And here's another thing. Stop shaming yourself. We need to shorten the bridge between where you are and to getting the thing done. Remove barriers to doing the thing you want to do, and put barriers in place for distractions so they are harder to, take over your focus. Here's the thing. Removing barriers to doing the things you want to do includes setting yourself up for success. Last night, I put out this podcast script and my morning journal knowing that this is what I was going to do this morning, okay? I built in supports in my environment to help me know when I'm going to go into school this week. I scheduled my tutoring so that I would have to be getting up earlier this week. I have set up an environment that has open organization, a standing desk, and things in my environment that keep me focused. I do have a passion for doing things like podcasting and teaching, but removing those barriers makes it easier to do. Then putting in barriers for distraction, so putting your phone far away from you or on silent, doing something like whatever distracts you the most. You get distracted by noises, put headphones on. Do you need some type of background white noise or lo-fi to focus? Do that. Modify the task environment or build in dopamine. Break the task down and make it clear. Reflect on your why and how you feel about it. Because as you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, and this is like Psych 101 by now, but situations cause thoughts, which elicit our emotions, which drive our actions. So, if your emotion is resistant and I don't want to. Your motivation is not going to be high. That's one of the things I had to change about myself before going back to work as well. I had to be willing. I had to want to go back. I had to find my why again. And that's totally fine. You have to sometimes find that why again. Sometimes it gets lost in the daily life, okay? So to recap, we have covered a lot of ground today, from understanding ADHD's impact on motivation to leveraging hyperfocus as a powerful tool. So here's a recap of the steps that you can take. 1, treat your ADHD. Meet your basic needs. 2, create a motivation-friendly environment. 3, reflect on your why. 4, use interest to harness hyperfocus. 5, build in supports for motivation when it's low. I will be including a freebie focus plan in the show notes that will help you to plan out and be clear about what you need to get done and break it down into steps and time it out. I use this focus plan all the time. It's also up for free on my Patreon page. And then 6, remove barriers to what you want to do and build barriers to the distractions. All right? Remember to change up your environment. Standing desks, candles, lightings, different types of chairs, the amount of surface area you have. Build in rewards like breaks, getting sunshine, and healthy dopamine-inducing activities. Create a dopamine menu of healthy choices to increase your dopamine and turn your motivation. Experiment with these techniques to find out what works best for you. Remember, these small changes practiced every day, little by little, can lead to significant improvements over time. Be persistent. It's not going to work the first, second, and maybe not even the third time. But get back up, reflect, adjust, and proceed until you get it to where you need it to be. That's what matters. This matters to me, and that's why I'm doing it. That's what you need to change and think about what you're doing and how you're doing it. Okay? So today we explored a very intricate relationship between ADHD and motivation. By embracing our strengths and understanding our brain's unique wiring and harnessing hyperfocus, we can unlock our full potential. Apply these strategies with confidence and watch your motivation soar through the sky. I promise you, I'm proof. Remember, you are capable of achieving amazing things. Stay empowered, and until next time, keep shining bright, stay authentic, and we will talk soon. Speaking of extra supports, I just wanted to tell you all that I've updated my Patreon page to include all of the resources that I've really ever made to be held in one place. Just head to my show notes. The VIP members do get a little extra, but you can also purchase like my brand new Ultimate ADHD Journal and Planner, which I've been using for the past year. That has worked. Nothing is priced over $10, and everything is at least 50 to 100 pages that you can download and print. You can get it to bind it and sent to you, or you can just read it off your screen and use notebook paper. So if you want or need any type of that kind of extra support, just head to my show notes and click the Patreon link to join. I hope to see you in there.